Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. This is your one-stop shop to learn the business side of your practice on a deeper level. On this show, we empower you to own your CEO status to scale your practice for growth, sustainability, and profit. Listen in as we talk about how to market your practice to gain more visibility, hire, build, and engage your ride or die dream team, create streamlined operations, and make financial decisions as a CEO. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome to the first official episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. I am so excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today and to have this conversation with you today. And for the first official episode, we're going to talk about why I created this podcast. This podcast has been in the making. It has been in my vision for the past couple of years. And it started out originally as an Instagram live series. So marketing for me as an introvert has always been one of the challenges that I've had. And as my business has grown, I've had to get really comfortable with putting myself out there in uncomfortable ways. One of the ways was Instagram. And even though, fast forward today, I think our total audience has over 12,000 people in it. We have an email list and different social media platforms. I was nervous to go live. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what to talk about. And so one of the ways that I decided to make sure I was showing up consistently to help people from a business and leadership perspective was to go live every week. And so CEO Conversations was born. It was a way for me to have something on my schedule every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern to talk about some type of business topic or some type of leadership topic. As my business has evolved, fast forward a couple years later, one of the things that I recognized was that Instagram wasn't exactly in alignment with how I wanted to show up anymore. There were deeper conversations I wanted to have. Also, I wanted to incorporate, more guests and getting different perspectives when it comes to business and leadership and healthcare, outside of healthcare, for different tactics and strategies that we can use from different industries. And so it started to become very clear that one of the best ways that I could show up in a more empowered way, coming from a place of authority as well, was a podcast. So here we are today. Here we are finally, after 2 long years of this being in my dream, we are now officially live. And so thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I am so excited for you to be here. I'm excited for the conversations that we're going to have. And one of the things I want you to be open to is letting me know what you want to hear more about, right? And so on the other side of this, I'm a real person with thoughts and feelings and emotions and everything else. And so I want to make sure that this podcast is worthwhile for you, that you are getting new knowledge from it, that it's inspiring you, that it's uplifting you. Because let's be honest, creating a practice, creating anything out of nothing is hard work. Entrepreneurship is hard, right? And so even though we are all in the healthcare field, it's hard work. It's hard work to show up and help people become more well. It's hard work to show up and inspire other people. It's hard work to show up and inspire ourselves. It's hard work to show up to make sure that things are running the way that they need to run. And I want to make sure that you are in a place to be successful, that you are not burned out, that you have a practice in life you love, that when you show up, you're definitely owning your CEO status. So one of the ways that you can do that is you can email us by info at savvy, SAVVY, Clover, CLOVER.com to let us know episodes that you would like to hear. The other thing is that I really, really would appreciate, it's so funny to say this because I've heard other people say it. I would really appreciate if you would share this podcast with anyone that you know could benefit from it. Also, definitely tag us on social media on Instagram at Savvy Clover Coaching to let us know that you're listening. I would appreciate that. And again, this podcast is here to serve you. This podcast is here to help you. This podcast is for you to be in a place of empowerment as you own your CEO status. So that's the starting point. We're just getting started with this episode. All right, so let's talk about the 4 reasons why I decided to start this podcast. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into today's episode as well, because if you're on the fence about maybe starting a podcast, or you think a podcast might help your clients and patients, or maybe you think that there's a bigger topic that needs to be talked about, then podcasting is a really great way to do that. And so whether if it's just audio or if it's audio and video, a lot of what's happening today is podcasts are becoming video. However, it doesn't mean that you can't start out small, right? You can't start out with just doing an audio version of your podcast. So one of the things I know to be true, and reason number one why I wanted to start my podcast, is it can help you grow movements, right? So I want every practice owner that I see, every private practice owner, to own their CEO status. That is so important to me. It is part of our mission. It's why I show up the way I do. It's how I'm able to overcome fear, because it's so critical as you are showing up for your mission, for your purpose, for your community, for those you're here to serve, that you understand the business side of your practice, right? That you are showing up as a inspired and empowered leader, right? It's so important for you not to get to a place where you are burned out, you're tired, you want to give it up, you want to sell your practice for nothing, and that doesn't do any good for any of us. I want you to be set up for success. So in my mind, I see every private practice owner owning their CEO status. They're showing up, not working the early mornings, the late nights, and the weekends. They're showing up feeling empowered. They're showing up with the team that they need in order to help them move for their movement, right? They're working the hours that they want to work. They are honoring their boundaries. They are being innovative when it comes to their practice and how they bring revenue in. They are showing up as the one that's in control of their practice and not at the mercy of their practice. And so that's important to me. That's so important to me. One of the ways that I want to do that, I want to talk to more people, is through podcasting. So I know that podcasts can help you grow a movement, right? So that's my movement that I'm trying to create. The second reason is we need more diversity. Right. So there's a lot of private practice podcasts. I've been on them. I feel so blessed, especially if you're one of those folks who are listening to this. And I've been on your podcast. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to your audience. Thank you so much for your support. One of the things that I do recognize is that there is a lack of diversity in healthcare and in the private practice space, especially when it comes to business coaches. So as a Black woman, if you did not know, but I'm sure you do from the cover, I am a Black woman, and I have been able to make my way into multiple senior level administrative teams, management teams, both working on the provider side and the payer side, where I've been the only Black woman, sometimes the youngest Black woman, and speaking to very high level CEOs, very high level VPs, very high level business owners, and setting them up for success, because I have a deep knowledge base that I know that I need to share. I am very quick to talk about what I feel about business, what I feel about leadership, but also it's because I know I deserve to be in rooms. You deserve to be in a room, especially if you're listening to this and you are part of the BIPOC community, or you are a woman, or you are part of the minority populations. We deserve to be in rooms. We deserve to be heard. We deserve to be in a place where our thoughts matter, right? And so I wanted to add more to the conversation, because there is a lot more that we can add to the conversation. And I was tired. We do a lot of pitching and trying to make sure that I'm getting my message out there. And I was tired of just trying to hunt and find spaces when I can create my own. And so that's part of what this is. We need more diversity and we need a different perspective. And I want to be that perspective. And so the other caveat to that, which brings me to reason number 3, is we need more extensive business knowledge to be shared. And so the magnitude of business experience that I've had, especially in healthcare, is massive. I mean, massive. It's 15 plus year, closer to actually 20 years worth of business management and leadership experience in different specialties, in different business climates. Like, I was just asked to do a presentation on the recession and inflation because I was part of 2008's recession. So that's how deep my business knowledge and experience goes back to, and how deep it goes. I've worked in, different specialties: cardiology, family practice, allergy and asthma, what else? Ophthalmology, mental health. What else is there? Oh my, like, just so many. Urgent care. I think it's probably easier for me to say a specialty I haven't worked in. So a specialty I haven't worked in would be like OBGYN. But even with that, like, when I worked in family practice, primary care, we hit everything. So everything is engulfed in that. And so there's not too much that I haven't seen from a business perspective. I can't say that I have seen everything in private practice. However, there's not too much that folks bring to me where I'm like, oh, yeah, been there, done that, have the t-shirt, right? And this isn't to brag or to come across as being, a know-it-all. No, it's just true and it's facts. In addition to that, I have worked in multi-million dollar, group practices, right? Both on the corporate space and the small business private practice space. And that is a rarity. So there's only 2 to 4% of folks who make it to the $1 million mark when it comes to business in general, right? And so that's a very small population, and especially from women specifically. And so with that, there's not really a lot of folks that can talk to it, right? Or a lot of folks know what that looks like, and a lot of folks are trying to get there, right? Especially with what you see out there, $1 million, businesses, 7-figure practice owner or 7-figure business owners. And so I have the blessing to be able to work with actual 7-figure practice owners as my clients. And then on top of that, my experience is engulfed all in that space, 16 plus $1 million budgets. In addition to that, I've worked on the payer side, the dark and evil, dirty side of healthcare, on the payer side with a huge global payer, huge. And so with that experience, doing consulting work with large hospital systems, with practices, multi-location practices, one doc shop practices, and so with that experience, I just know a lot. I've seen a lot. I've had to navigate a lot, and so with that, I want to share that information, and I want to make sure that you're set up for success. And I feel it would be a disservice not to share my experience with you, or not to make sure that you're set up for success when it comes to your practices. The other thing is, we get really great transformation with our clients. And part of the reason is because how I look at your practice is not the same way you look at your practice. I look at your practice according to what do you need to be set up for success. So if you tell me my dream is to, have a multi-million dollar practice, I want to help, tons of people, I'm going to set you up for success to make sure that you have the structure that you need, the processes and systems, the leadership that you need, that you're comfortable with yourself as a leader. So that way you can scale to whatever level that looks like, and you can actually step into your vision, and that you are going to look at your practice as a true company. So we need more extensive business knowledge to be shared. What I do know, and from my colleagues, is that most times the business knowledge that is being shared is from a very specific base of what folks have been able to achieve in their one practice, or what they've kind of stumbled on as maybe a success tactic. And then they teach that, right? But there's so much more to business that you need to know, that you need to understand outside of just one pillar. And that's where I come in. So I am just here to be a wealth of knowledge for you. That's my goal, and to truly be that expertise that you need when it comes to the business side of your practice. That's my expertise. I'm a business and healthcare leadership expert. All right. So, number 4, we need to learn from other industries, not just our colleagues. I remember there was an orientation that I went through. This was for one of the hospital systems I was being onboarded at. And we learned about Chick-fil-A. If you don't know what Chick-fil-A is a fast food chicken restaurant that's very well known, at least here in the South. And we learned from their business model. We learned specifically their customer service. And so if you know Chick-fil-A, one of the famous sayings that they say is, "It's my pleasure," with after everything. They give you a drink. "Thank you. It's my pleasure." If they give you your sandwich, if you say, "Thank you, it's my pleasure." That is like what they've been known for. And so at the time, we studied them for customer service. Why did we study them for customer service? Because you always want to make sure that your practice experience, your client and patient experience is on point. How can you learn that? You can learn that from working with other industries, right? And so even going back a few weeks, I did an Instagram live with another business owner, and we were talking about Old Navy and marketing. And so if you look at other industries, if you look at other companies who are really setting the tone, surviving some of these economic downturns and craziness, look at what they're doing, right? So if you start to take just best practices in general from companies that are doing well outside of healthcare, you can implement some of those things inside of your practice, right? And so it's not just about learning healthcare from a bunch of healthcare folks. Again, it's about learning business and leadership. And so the flip side of this is that there's companies who aren't doing things so well. We know of big companies, like I'm thinking about Uber, I'm thinking about so there's like so many things that we can learn from businesses that are putting themselves out there in big ways for what to do and what not to do, right? So it's important for you to understand that business can be learned from different people, different types of people, different type of industries, not just your colleagues. And it's actually more rich when you're learning it from taking it a little bit from other places and then bringing it back to how you're showing up, right? That's where the magic happens. So those are the 4 reasons for why I am starting this podcast, and just some things that are going to be incorporated as part of this podcast. And so this isn't just going to be where you're showing up and listening to, again, your colleagues. No, there's going to be some of that, but you're honestly going to learn business. That is my goal, for you to learn business, for you to learn leadership, for you to know how to run your practice and how to make sure that you're set up for success for what your vision is. So this isn't about just putting all this corporate structure or putting you in like a box or making things so rigid, just dripped in policy and procedures. No, this is about you truly having something that you can leverage, a practice that feels good to work in, a practice that your team feels good to work in, a practice that feels well run, a practice that if you want to go on vacation and leave your practice for a month, you can, and you know that the folks who are holding it down won't burn it down, right? And so that's the goal of this podcast. So get ready, buckle up, get ready to have some fun, and to listen and learn from big guests, and for some really great CEO conversations. So thank you so much for listening to this first episode. I am so excited again to be on this journey with you, and I'm looking forward to it. All right.